Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome back into the Dragon's Den. My name is Digital Dragon, and I am a 3D printing variety streamer here on Twitch. And I hope everybody's having a great day. Can't wait to get started today. We're going to have a little bit of work ahead of us. We're kind of a little bit all over the place right now, but that's okay. We're going to put on some accent pieces. We're going to install our rails, even though one of them will be semi-temporary, and I'll explain why, and just start getting some things laid out. I am in the process of printing new mounts for the Manta M8P. I've got that going and a couple of other prints going on Dragoon 1. And then downstairs, I've got the new mounts going because after looking at these mounts where we had the two power supplies on, these holes are just not set up right for the din rail that I have. And I can fight it and sand it and spend a lot of time and pretty much waste a lot of time. Or I can grab the versions that came with this set of din rail, drop rail mounts, which, well, as you can see here, slide on really easily, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get the versions that go with this. One of the reasons why I tried the other one is it allowed for two different size power supplies. Well, we solved that problem because the UHP 350-24s that I ordered from KB3D came in. So we now have a 24 volt and a 48 volt in the same size form factor. So we'll be able to put these two together using the single mount. So we'll install this as soon as those parts finish. I want to say by splitting it up on the two machines, they'll be done relatively the same time. And that's about in an hour and a half. So maybe at the end of the stream. The plan is to go until about noon. And then I'm going to relocate down to Ecovate for some stuff today. Unless that plan changes, which it just might. So I started off cutting some din rail down. I've got meter long lengths of din rail. And I need them about 497. So I cut 3 of them down just for good measure. And we'll be using these to do some install today. We're going to do some prep work to get some of our mounts that we currently have available right now ready to go so that we can put on the Wagos, we can get our drop rails started. I've got some Z-rail stoppers that are, or not Z-rail, but MGN rail stoppers that'll prevent the rails from sliding off, or the carriages from sliding off the rails. So we got these. We can also do some heat sets over here. So what we're going to do is we'll get the heat press up here and we'll get going. And a couple of other things that I also came about with was I had to reprint this part. The original one that I printed and put all the heat set inserts in. Yeah, the holes were for 2.5 to mount the hot end, and I need 3 millimeter. And what I'm going to do real fast is just grab a 3 millimeter and make sure that it goes down in there based on the changes that I made. How's it going, Eagle? And yes, tight fit for the head, but it'll get down in there. As I then just drop a screw. That one I did see go somewhere in the workbench, so we will find that one later. So we're going to do some heat sets. Hey, 491 Phantom, how's it going? Welcome in. Put you guys over here to the bench side. And we'll bring you in some so that you can see as I'm doing the heat presses again. But we're going to go through and do some more heat pressing. or heat set inserts. Like I said, I had to redo the hot end mount here because I believe it was set up for a Dragon, which has 2.5 millimeter holes, and I needed 3 millimeter. And just drilling the holes out to 3 millimeter, the heads were just going to be off as well. So took the same part, reprinted it, put in some deeper or larger holes to account for the screw heads, and I just came by and popped them out to 3 millimeter on the mounting holes here. So that'll work. I just need to go through and put heat sets back in this one, and I've got a set of parts over here that we'll go through and recover heat sets out of later on after the stream, or potentially keep for updating a different printer. You've completed another lap around the sun today. Well, congratulations and happy birthday, fam. That is awesome. Fourth anniversary of half a century. Fourth anniversary, half of a century. Dude, that would make you like 200 years old. I somehow do not think that is a correct estimation of time, but and another reason why I'm going to be heading down to Ecovate is Mrs. Dragon is getting ready to head out shortly to go to a North Carolina siblings meeting, and she'll be down in that area, so I'll be heading down there. Okay, that makes more sense. 54, so fourth anniversary since hitting half a century. That makes more sense. Yeah, there we go. Hey, Guru of Null, how's it going? Welcome in. And for those of you keeping score in the local events, you'll know that there was an announcement that there's going to be a buy-sell trade event at Ecovate. That is next weekend, August 2nd. Beverly set it up and then proceeded to start telling everybody it was going to be this weekend, which is not August 2nd. And folks, when you're doing your heat sets on these parts, be careful, because I now have it on 1, 2, 3 sides. The chances of me sitting here, keep grabbing it like this as I'm putting a heat set in and putting my finger on one of these, it's still fairly warm. Pretty good chance. Hey sis, how's it going? Things are going well. You may have seen this part before because, well, here's the original one that I put all the heat sets into, and then found out that the mounting holes were the wrong size, so I had to fix that. This part we reprinted last stream because it was for 6 millimeter belts and we needed 9 millimeter belts, so we're going to hold on to these in case we decide to do something with that later. So I got a new one of these reprinted. It should work. And for our board mount for the Orbital, we're still waiting on the standoffs. I ordered some 12mm standoffs. Now what that'll let me do is throw either an M3 nut back here or a couple of washers. Sorry. It'll let me throw like an M3 nut or a couple of washers on top of the screws, put that standoff on, and then I'll have the 14mm distance I need so that when we mount the board, our pins line up with our little extension cable here. So that will go right in there, and that will mount. So we'll have a nice, good, secure connection here for the board to the sensor. Whoops, the board to the sensor. And we'll have a fully supported mount back here. So, yeah. Those should be in, of course, tomorrow, because why would they get in today? Hey, Zombie, how's it going? And, yeah, we're just going through and putting some heat sets into things right now so that we can mount some of the equipment. I'm printing the board mounts now for the Manta M8P. From the looks of this, I'm wondering if this was supposed to be direct into plastic instead of a heat set, but it's a heat set now. It's kind of cool that we got that nice little core of plastic that came out. That's a heat set now, and that'll be to mount this board, to hold this board underneath, and this will be the USB power in, and then this will be the umbilical, darn it, USB in, power in, and then the 6-pin that goes up to the tool head. And I might have to sand the edge of that board down some because it's just a tiny bit proud for the print. Yep, no worries. We can do that. We also have on our drop brackets here, we've got little alignment nubbins here. So this will go against the extrusion right here. And you'll notice that we've got a spot here. This is for those 3-in-1 fan boards or 2-in-1 fan boards. So I will put some heat sets in here on a couple of these so that I'll be able to do some fans underneath the boards. And then we'll have heat sets that go on each side that will allow us to put a screw in to lock these in place on the rails. So, and I'm good on heat sets because, well, I purchased like 400 of them recently. But I am going to recover them out of the parts that we're not going to use. So how's it going, Zombie? I haven't been in your stream in a little bit. What have you been working on your stream? Anything interesting and exciting? Good question. Oh, okay. I mean, I figured you'd be the one that could answer it. You got the SVO8 back up and running? Awesome. What was wrong with the SVO8? Or were you just doing upgrades? Krista T is testing a hot end. Yeah, well, this will be testing a hot end, and the riff will be testing a hot end as well once I get these two done. That's why I need to kind of press on and get this done. Do hot end for fun. Okay. Need to fix cable management. Yeah, that's normally the hardest part on some of these commercial printers is the cable management stuff. Now I know Connect Creator, aka Taylor, aka Nero, was adding a takeoff with a tube and a Jupiter toolboard, which I have never seen the Jupiter toolboard actually in stock at Luke's Labs. Because that's the successor to his Hoovid, right? And I'm trying to think, wasn't that on a Solval? I thought it was on a Solval chassis. I think like a Solval Trident or something. You're waiting for Jabberwocky to get your 2.4 hooked up with the box turtles. I've got a Jabberwocky. KB3D gave me one at Murph. So I need to get that one going. And I need to redo. I was thinking, where do I put Jabberwocky? Do I put it over in Iron Dragon, my Trident behind me? But I just had a thought that I'm redoing I'm going to update the box turtle for the LDO 2.4 Rev C/D that I have down at Echovate because it's got some older parts and I want to update everything and then update all the software that goes with it. And when I do that, that might be a good time to move from Filomatrix over to Jabberwocky. So, yeah. Okay, so we've got all of our drop rail mounts. We've got the new tool head. We've got the heat set that probably wasn't needed and the little board here. I do need to add heat sets into these DIN clips, which funny enough say RS25, but are actually to mount our Wago, our 3x5 Wagos. So we'll do a couple of more heat sets over here. And then once again, I am printing a bunch of parts right now for mounts. For the Manta and what do I got? I've got the Manta, a couple of cable management clips that will go down the center Z-rail in the back that'll hold the umbilical in place, and a few other things going on. So yeah, I got a few things. We'll have to break the heat press out again later on if the mounts for the PSU get done. I think that's all we need for right now. Coffee. See how easy it is to drop the Tridoon over to more of a stock 2.4 setup. Is the belt path different? Haywater stream is going pretty well. To a point. We're printing mounts right now for our. Here, let me pull back out some. So we are printing the mounts right now for the Manta board, so we'll be able to install that. We just put in all the heat press inserts into our drop rails for the din rails. I got up this morning and cut din rails, so I've got 3 din rails cut. I reprinted this morning. We had an issue where the original holes were for 2.5, and the hot end I'm putting in requires 3mm mounting holes. So I needed to modify this, and the easiest way was really to go into the slicer and just add larger knockouts for the screw heads. And then I just came and drilled these out to 3mm to allow the screws to pass through. So that should be done. I printed out a bunch of these little Z-end stop pieces from, or not Z-end stop, dang it, linear rail stops to keep your carriages from sliding off the linear rails. And I put 2 on the front. That allows me to slide this all the way forward now, the gantry all the way forward, and start tensioning the belts up so that the belts are fairly tensioned now. I plan on installing the bottom panel today, and we're going to start doing the drop rail mounts and getting those installed. I'll probably have to take one off to do the PSU mounts again, because I'm swapping the PSU mounts. It appears like that will be the easier option now that I've got my we got the 48 volt and the 24 volt UHP 350, so they're the same size. The reason I went with the other mounts was it allowed me to go with 2 different sizes, a 200 and a 300 size. The problem is these din rail cutouts are not right, so I'm going to have to sand the crap out of these. And now that we've got the same like size, these din rails slide right onto my aluminum din very easily. So I'm reprinting the ones for the dual UHP mount from this person. So, question, how does the Centauri compare to the K1C, seeing you have both of them? Well, let me see. I have one Creality K1C and I have 4 Centauri carbons. No, they both print really, really well. The K1C prints really well. It's a slightly smaller build size though, and the Centauri carbon, any build plate for a Bamboo A1 P1 X1 will also fit in a Centauri carbon, where the build plates in the K1C are smaller and a different size. So it's really more of the Centauri carbon is kind of right there in that sweet spot that I need. So I've got 4 Centauri carbons, 2 X1Cs that are now assigned to Digital Dragon 3D for doing production work. And the K1C, I don't know, maybe it shows up next weekend at Ecovate for the sale. Not because it's a bad printer, but just, you know, we do have the DXC on it. We do have a couple of nozzles from Fadis that are screw out, screw in, because that's what the unicorn nozzles. So yeah, it's a good platform. I just am liking the Centauri carbon a little bit more right now. So you can avoid doing the dumb thing that you did. What dumb thing, Waters? Yeah, so what we're going to have is our din rail mounts. Now, once again, remember, there's little nubs on one side. That's the side that drops into the din rail itself. So we're going to slide these on. And the nice thing with these is we've got the area to mount fans. So that's always going to go towards the inside, and this should slide right on. We'll grab one of the ones that has the insets on it and put it in on the other side. And that way we'll be able to put fans in from either direction. And I'm just going to line these up with the ends, and we'll put like an M3.8. Hopefully an M3.8 will go. Maybe might have to do a 10. Let me double check. Nope, we're going to have to use 10s. And this is just going to lock it onto the rail. Yes, the rail stops so that you don't drop the carriage off on the floor and lose all your balls. And we're screwing this down up against aluminum. We don't want to deform the aluminum. We just want to set that screw in so that it will lock it in and keep it from moving around. And once again, one of these I will have to take back out when the mount for the UHPs come off, because it does slide on. From what I can tell, it's not a flip-on type of mount. Now the mounts for our Manta M8P will be a clip-on style, so we'll be able to add that in as soon as those mounts finish. And then what else? Yeah, I've got the cable chain mounts and stuff going on. Like I said, the plan today is also going to be to put the bottom panel on, because all of our electronics are facing up. So with the bottom panel on, that will at least keep the Z motor wires inside the perimeter where I keep kicking and stepping on them now, because they're just sitting around the carpet. All right, so there's one DIN rail set, ready to go. We'll get the other one set and ready. But yeah, we're gonna try and press through some of the projects and just keep them rolling. When I go down to Ecovate today, who knows, I might not necessarily stream, but I might do a video of putting my fracks together, just because I still need to get that put together. So I'll do a video and maybe see if I can't talk Clover into doing some edits for me if needed, to post it up on YouTube. So, Zombie, what, if you can say, what is your major project for 3D Printopia that you're trying to gear up for, that you're going to be stressing out over in the next few days, or as soon as we hit like the middle of next month and Liz starts sharing countdowns with everybody? I know. The portal printer prototype, yeah. I know I will have a couple of the, or at least one of the auto ejects there. I will have Zura's Micron Plus I have to get done between now and then. And then, yeah, I've got to decide which printers I'm going to be bringing to the show because there will be printers coming to the show with me. Okay, so let me very gently, I'm going to take this over and file the edges of this circuit board just a little bit. Doesn't need to be much. I'm just trying to get rid of the line where they did where they snapped the boards apart. Just a couple of quick swipes should do it. Do it. I think this printed part might just be a little tight. All right. I think I know what I need to do here. All When is Printopia? It's in Maryland this year, Philly next time, and it's the 27th and 28th of September. Yes. There we go. Just really tighten this board. Like at this point, I don't know if I even need to put a screw in that to hold it in, but we will. Full headboard. Where is the box for the? No, that is the orbital. Duh. Like, no, this isn't the right one. We're looking for a Nighthawk. Nope, we're looking for the orbital. The aluminum spacers that are not the right size. Connectors, more connectors, ferrules, long screws, washers, and nuts that will be used over there. I don't know. We'll grab a screw and put it in. Does not look like there's one there. We'll grab a M3x6. Doesn't need to be very long. And just a slight turn. We don't need to really shove this or crimp this down on here. Like I said, it's pretty tight in there in that printed part now. Okay. Power supplies there. We've got this. We're going to mount this to our din rails. in that manner. So we're using M3x8s. Line up in the hole. I got M3x8, so I'm going to swap at least this one over to M3x6. You'll see that the heat set insert kind of sticks out some already there. And if I go with an M3x8, it comes all the way into that printed part. Yes, there's a hole there, but I don't want to have that screw have any chance of being in the way and preventing me from using this lever to lock or unlock this part on the rail. And the other thing is make sure that you orientate these both in the same direction. Otherwise, life gets hard sometimes. Magic mouse instead of the earbuds. You have a feeling you may regret that. You know what? I've got a Magic Mouse, an external keyboard that the company bought for my home setup, and they're both still sitting there. I haven't used either one. I've been pretty good with the trackpad, and it's one of those things that if I was static, it would be good to have, but I'm not. How can I put it? I'm not that static because I wind up. Going back and forth to the office, so I don't want to have like different setups every place that I go. Okay, remember this is going to be our X end stop as well, so we'll add that today. We'll get that on there. I need some 5-way Wagos. So let me grab a few of those. And this is going to be for mains power distribution. We may need to add a distro block here or there for the 24 volt, though I don't think so. And do these just slide in this way, or do they go up and down? This may go up and down like that. In which case, these are a little loose in there this way. Let me look up that printables page and see what we've got. Yep. So this is basically the setup I'm using. This is Voron Electronics dual HP DIN brackets, but it also has the 3-way power and of course your drop brackets. So, you know, you can do either dual 350s or dual 200s. So we're doing the dual 350s. We've got our inverted DIN rails that we just put on there. The clips for the Wago, and then the Wago DIN piece here. Now, the issue that I'm having, let me see if there's anything in the comments. Okay, not seeing anything in the comments regarding the STL bracket for the Wagos. What I'm seeing here is the Wagos should go in like this, and these are very much just slip in, which can be a bit disconcerting. You don't want them falling out, but since this is a drop or a kind of a reverse setup, your wires are coming from top down. They should never come out because you're not putting it on its side, flipping it over and all that. You won't be at Ecovate today. You'll be there tomorrow. Yeah, I can see that. And besides, if you have the magic mouse, that's something else that Mia can play with. Oh, look, everybody and their brother has ding clips and stuff now for those. Awesome. So we'll work with this. If for some reason I feel like this is not going to work or it won't be safe, then we'll swap out and do something else. Yeah. Because my goal will be power inlet, power switch will come out of the inlet and the switch to these Wagos. From here, we'll go into our dual UHP. So the mains voltage will be here. The DC will be coming out here. That DC voltage will come out to our, whatchamacallit, our Manta M8P, which will be orientated in the opposite direction on the front DIN rail. And because we're using all USB for our toolhead board, we shouldn't need. Yeah, we've got a CB2 on here, and this, so we shouldn't need any additional USB or any other devices, so to speak. We'll just have this little guy, which we can mount just about anywhere at this point. Though I'm not sure why there wasn't a DIN clip mount, or if there was, I might have missed it. So, yeah, let's work on the printer side itself. So once again, I put my let me flip this around. There we go. So I put the linear rail stops at the front here. Now there is a gap in the back, and normally what's going to happen is I'm going to mount the Y-axis end stop. So this piece here with the Y-axis end stop will get mounted right down here, and this truck will trigger the end stop. So this will prevent it from coming off the rail at the back because of the end stop itself, so we don't need a physical. I'm going to go ahead and put one of my accent rail stops at the top of these. It should never get up that high, because if it does, it's going to jam into the nozzle, into the tool head. But it's more of, why not add some more pop? Because remember, all of this material here is a neon material, and I am going to source blacklight LEDs, so that when we turn the LEDs on, this should light up pretty much, pretty well. And so all we're going to do is take these little accent pieces, drop them in from the top, and get them on there. I am using hammerhead T-nuts for these. And like I said, these are not necessarily like mandatory items here. And I just realized, like, why is this Z-rail a different top length? We're going to take a look at that because I've got a Z-rail that's a little bit higher than the other two. Oh yeah, yeah. You always get the Apple Care plan. You're going to set up the camera and OBS and bar software. Cool. Yeah, like I said, the MacBook M4s are amazing. They are a beast. Well, thanks, sis. I'm glad that my lessons on tinkering have sunk in. It's printing better than the P1S. Well, your X1C should print better than your P1S. It costs a heck of a lot more. Okay, yeah, that is the. Well, maybe these aren't going to work out so well because the nub is. We'll go ahead and take these off. These are not, like I said, these are not required on the Z. You're going to have plenty of travel and you're going to stop based on the tool head before you hit anything on the Z anyhow, so, or come off the Z. We'll hold these for later. No biggie. I want to put the drop rail in the back, and then we'll put the drop rail in the front, and based on that location, we'll be able, or once we get those in, we'll be able to put the thing in from the underside. And just to make it easier for everybody to see, I'm going to go ahead and flip the printer. Because the drop rails are drop rails, they'll be able to go in. Our power inlet is now over here on this side. So that's where I want my Wagos, which are going to fall out when I flip this over. So once again, these are going to kind of go right here. And I'll need to adjust the spacing on here possibly. Nope, that one's good. That one's good. These will be M5 by 8s or M5 by 10s. What do we got left here? Oh, hey, there's some heat sets in there. We'll just dump that into our heat set bin since we've been digging out of our own. M3. Alrighty. Yeah, I'm having issues with one of my AMS slots on my older machine, and it's all right. So we're gonna have to mix and match. See how long it takes me to swap screws out later on. And we're mixing and matching because I only have 4 of the black screws left. And 5x10 is not going to work because these are they're not indented. So we're going to need something that goes this plus a few. This part is 10 millimeters, so we're going to need 12. Let me see what I got in M5x12s. If these are right, these are, could be 14s. Nope, 16s. And 16 is going to be way too long. No, maybe not. 16s will work. Sixteen should work. And that rear one, we're going to leave a little loose just to make sure that we can move it around once we get the those things, the power supplies installed. I'm looking at these drop brackets might be a little bit too long now too. Yeah, a little bit too deep, and it's going to bow our deck panel. You know, I'm wondering if the reason it was deeper is because of the putting these up on the side. I may have to go back and use the mount that I did for black box to mount these two side by side like this on a standard drop din rail. Because the ZeroG ones should be lower enough that this would mount on there without an issue. Dang it. Every time I think I've got it done, something pops up. So what we're going to do, we'll come over here. New project. Nope, don't save. Clear everything out. Electronics. Drop bracket. And we'll need to print out 4 of these. Dang it. We aren't going to be able to make a ton of progress today. Sorry, I was thinking about what we could do to continue to make some type of progress on this build. We can go back and start working on some of the software side of things, because we still have to update our configuration based on the Orbitool, because we're going to be using a different tool head. Remember, we just grabbed wholesale the config from the original build, which was a CAN bus toolhead board. So yeah, we're going to have to make some changes. Let me go ahead and take these din rails off, and we'll just go ahead and put we'll take these din rails off. The din rail lengths are fine. We're just going to have to replace the drop mounts. We'll replace the drop mounts. We will mount things in there however we need to. Like I said, we'll wind up moving the spacing up or down based on how we lay out the power supplies. So we'll go ahead and remove these off the end, which means we'll have more, well, we'll potentially have more heat sets to pull out. We could potentially reuse these on one of the Trident builds, because we can always switch to a drop setup on a Trident build. There's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Or in some cases, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. As soon as I get these off, we'll go over, we'll put the bottom deck panel on, and I think we'll be using M3x8s for that. And we should have screws in the kit to do that stuff, because that would be the 3x12. And 3x8. And this is deck panels for the Nebula, so we'll be able to pull up the Nebula enclosure documentation. Oh, yeah. There we go. So, electronics bay. We've got side and back, top. Here's our electronics bay panels, our laser CNC cut top deck, or the deck panel. So it doesn't really show us. Awesome. So what we've got is bottom of our printer. We will have a deck panel cut out. You'll notice there's a gap back here. So this works for, I think, the smaller ones. And then here is a filler panel that then fills in the gap here. So I'm trying to figure out. This would line up as if we were doing it into that bottom extrusion. This fills in nicely here, so I wonder, we must have some printed pieces right here. And I thought I had printed everything out. Yeah, so these are all the inner deck panels because they've got the spots to put magnets in them. So these go along the back. These will go up on the sides. Just going to double check with the other one over here. Is Turtle. Turtle's not here. I mean, these honestly do look like they would be set to be the backers for this. So we're going to go ahead and put some heat sets in the ends, not in the middle, because there's no screw hole for the middle. We'll do these at the ends, and these will be the joiners for these two pieces back here. And I got some mounts that have finished, so maybe we'll leave this hot and we'll be able to put in the screws for our mounts here in a little bit. Okay, I just realized you guys can't see me now where I've got the camera set up, so but once again, on these pieces here, we're just doing the outer edges because that is what will line up with the holes that are cut back here and will allow us to join these two pieces together and make it one piece when we go to flip it over. Hey, Keela, how's it going? How is it going? Did I see you guys were working on fixing an A1 today? We were trying to make some progress and we're getting our electronics mount set up so that we can get our electronics done. I had to reprint some parts. Hey, Pezliz, how's it going? So once again, this rear piece is in two parts. I believe this is for the smaller size and this is the add-in for the larger size. So So what we're going to wind up doing is we'll pull our paper off. And be kind to yourself, do both sides. If you don't, you will have issues down the road when you do try and peel this paper off after it being on there for so long and dealing with heat. The other reason to do that too is you might see that one side's shiny and the other side's matte, and then you have the option of which way do you want to install it. In this case, we're fingerprint shiny on both sides, so we've got our little piece done, and let's do the big piece here. You slept in. I guess it's allowed. I mean, it is a Saturday. Oh God, yeah. Summers with a bunch of kids. What does everyone like better? The paper backing or the plastic backing? You like the plastic better? Yeah. The the paper can be kind of a pain in the butt sometimes, but it doesn't seem to generate as much static electricity either, like the plastic does. Yeah, it is staticky. Yeah, the plastic looks more sleek. Now, I'm not going to lie. I would love to have some like full aluminum deck panels on this. I think that would look pretty shit hot, and also provide for some more rigidity, even if it was just the bottom panel. But yeah, might look into some 1/8 inch or 3 millimeter thick aluminum panels for here. At least see what SendCutSend will charge me for them. I know my Shapeoko is not big enough to cut this size. My brother's might be, and he's not using it, so maybe I can steal his. Because this shouldn't be too hard to cut on a standard trim router. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off in 3x8s. These are all button heads. Millimeter driver. Try not to burn myself on the thing behind me. And the nice thing about this is it's 100% square, so it shouldn't matter which side we use. And what I'm going to do is put this plate under here. And I'm not going to secure them down all the way. I'm just going to get them started. Because these panels have slots, which means there is some movement capability. I just want to make sure I get all 4 lined up before I screw it down. All the way. And these are offset some. So there's a shorter end here and a longer end here. The longer end is the inside. The shorter end is the outer edge. And with that like that, I should be able to put that there. Take this plate, lay it on the back. And then we'll drive the screws in for the back panel. And pretty much just like this, we'll have a cohesive panel. We're just going to go around the perimeter, and every slot where we see one of our heat set inserts, we're going to go ahead and put a screw in. You're going there. Hey, Phil and Nux, how's it going? Welcome in. Yeah, so this is going to look pretty nice. My din rail's finished. My other ones downstairs should be finished as well. And that was the other din rail mounts, but now I'm not sure if it'll work. So before I go and install that, we'll just we'll try and get the other drop rail mounts printed. And then we'll be able to see what the distance is like and whether or not it'll be able to work. It's looking pretty nice and sleek. I forgot how nice this stuff could look. Yeah, new panels are the best. That is true. Until you start getting fingerprints all over them, they look beautiful. This one I don't think we're going to get into. We'd have to probably move this actual side rail ever so slightly down. So we'll be fine with that one not in for now. Everything else is in. You go ahead and swap some parts, and we'll start printing the drop din rails. Again, this is a Kadive plate. Really liking these plates. Everything pops off of them real easily. This will be mounts for our manta board. What else? We've got, I think, 4 of these were actually for PSUs, and then the other one was probably for a 5-volt PSU. I'll have to double check. There we are. We've got the deck panel on our printer. That'll keep our wires inside. We have some dress-up panels that we can put on, which were the other panels over here. And I'll kind of get these laid on there so you can see kind of how this is working. Yes. Now, there are spots down here on each corner that will allow wires to travel right down this inner race and down in the gap between this front and rear. There's also a gap right in the back, so our umbilical is going to be mounted right here in the middle, and those wires are going to go right down the back side and down through the hole in the plate right behind this center channel. And then these go like this, and each one of these spots will have spots to put magnets on, and those magnets will become the clip face for the top panel or the deck panel, which should be clear. So we kind of have this skirt around the backs or around the sides and the back. The front, I thought there were plates in the front. Maybe not. But yeah, that's how that's going to look. We can work on installing those right now. It's not going to impede us from doing our drop rails, though the ones in the back we may not want to do just yet till we actually start doing all of our wire routing. But that's how we're looking right now, folks. I do have some tension on these belts. I don't have a lot of tension. I planned on leaving this here for the time being until we get the tool head fully set up. These are going to be for the X end stop. We've got our 2 fans back here because we're doing the quote-unquote owl fans or owl eyes. So we've got 2 5015s back here. So each side providing air to one side of the tool head cooling. So yeah, we can go ahead and get some M3 nuts, and we can start getting some of the deck panels in. Like I said, I'm starting the drop rails, so hopefully once those are done we can get the drop rails in and then continue with our electronics. Now what I wish is that we had the actual what screws to use for all of these. Door handles, this is door catch. This would be for the panels, but nothing for the actual printed parts in the frame. Hey K2, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. We're working on the ZeroG. so far, you know, I tried using a different set of drop brackets to drop our DIN rails down, which would use some items like this to mount our 2 UHP power supplies up on their side. But these drop rails are slightly too long to sit nicely with the deck panel. It'll blow the deck panel out. So we're going to reprint the drop panel, or the drop mounts that ZeroG provides, and based on that, I'll check to see if the UHPs will clear standing up on their sides. If they don't, then I'm going to have to dig up the mount that I did for the black box, where I can mount them side by side horizontally and stuff like that. Yeah, this is pretty big. Like I said, it's all around, it's the same size, just about same outward dimensions as the VCore V4 300 frame. And once again, I've built one of these before in the smaller form factor. So, and I think before I do this, before I start trying to lock some panels down, which once again, these rear ones, I'll get them lined up, but I'm not sure if I want to lock the rear panels down, simply because like all of my motor wires are going to come down through this channel and right down into the deck. Actually, you know what? We can run those now. We can get those run now. And what we're going to do is we'll use some channel cover to hold these wires. We'll bring them down, kind of loop them through right into the channel, and then we'll do some channel cover to lock those into the channel. And I've got some vinyl stuff right here, but I think I've got gray, like the plastic stuff that came from open builds. I'll have to double check if that'll work, and if it does, that might be a better option than having 2 black vinyl strips down the back side. But we can just do something in the interim to hold this down and in there. And once again, the 4-pin is the actual motor wires. The additional 2 wires is the thermistor for the motor. And we'll have to put connectors on the thermistor wires, of course, but that will be, this will be the PT1000 thermistors that are actually in the motors themselves, that are used to track the temperatures, as we're going to be running 48 volts in them and a high current, because we'll be running like 3 amp current into them. Well, up to 3 amp current into these motors. And so once again, we'll wrap that around into the track. Maybe I'll cut some vinyl to hold it down in there for now. And then we'll do, we'll swap it out for the gray stuff once I get there. Once I get there, yeah. Once I dig it out, because it's in the open builds boxes, I'm going to have to fish it all out. So let me grab these off. I'm going to set this back on its side, which will make it a little bit easier to work on these wires. And I hate that I'm having to do this sitting here on the floor, but This thing is not fitting on the workbench. It's just too big, right? So what we're doing is at the back plates, there's a cutout right here. And that cutout lines up with this extrusion. So we're going to bring our wires all the way down through that extrusion. Try and keep them nice and neat and in that extrusion. Down to the deck panel. And this piece will then come in and lock right over the top. And so now that we have that decently routed, we'll be able to lock that in place right there. I just want to put something over the top of this. It might just be a couple of small strips of electrical tape to keep it there for now until I go find those strips. I'll do the other side and make sure it's pulled nice and tight, but not too tight. And then we can lift it back up and we can start working on doing some deck paneling, or the accent panels around the deck. So we're just going to take some black electrical tape for the time being. Grab a pair of scissors. And once again, this is temporary, just to hold this in place while we work on getting those bottom panels on. And as soon as I can, I will find that gray slot cover and we'll put some nice slot cover on it. Because I'm thinking the gray would look a lot better than black. So that side's kind of there. I need to flip over here and do the other side. Same thing. We'll get our wires, pull them down, unravel them, pull them down nicely, line them in the channel, and away we go. And once again, we want to bring this down, but we don't want to make it too tight. You know, there needs to be some strain relief. That lined up in the channel. Do a couple of strips of electrical tape. Keep it from falling out when we put it back up. All right, there we go. And that's probably a good thing that we did that, because my plan had always been power supplies in the back and the board in the front. Now what I'm seeing is, here's the length of cable. It's not going to make it to the front. Same thing with this one. It's not going to make it to the front. So I think what I'm going to need to do is have my board back here and the power supplies up front. Which means we might swap these two front, or these two leg corners around, because that will move my switch up front, and I'll have to bring my wire straight down, go into the switch and do my Wagos up front. So we'll have our power supplies at the front of the printer. But now that we have that stuff on there, we're going to start working on some more pretty. And what's going to behoove us is to try and get our magnets in here first off. So the question is, are these the 10x3 size or the 6x3 size? Six is a little loose, but 10s are not making it one way or the other. So we will be doing some super glue to set all of our magnets in here. That is not an indication that my super glue was partially open and just, oh no, it's not fully hardened, but I'm gonna have to grab an acupuncture needle though and open it up. So yeah, the plan is to get this one done, and then we've also got the rift to work on. I've been in communication with the designer of the rift, and he's making progress on getting his electronics done, but he's still working through final placements and stuff. So it may be just a bit longer on that. We're working on it. We're getting there. If possible, I would very much like to get the rift to 3D Printopia. I think that'll be a really cool project. So we're just going to come through here and super glue the bottom of the spots here. And these are pretty strong magnets. So you're not, and if the holes were, how can I put this? If the holes were tight for the magnets, then you could just press them in and pull it, pull the stack back off. These are not that snug on the magnets. So you're going to want to be careful put your magnets down in there one at a time. And in this case, I'm just going to keep moving these forward, and we'll do all of our parts. We'll get the magnets going. And this way we keep all of our magnets in the same orientation as well. And then when we go to do the clips on top of it, we'll do those one at a time to make sure that we get the proper orientation on the magnets. And I did glue a stack of magnets, not a stack, but a couple of magnets together the other day. That was a wonderful thing. Luckily, I have extra magnets, so that wasn't a big problem, but and the ones in these rear panels were actually pretty tight, so. Back from breakfast, did you miss anything? No, not really. We're still having fun. We're still having issues. And by issues, I mean, we're trying to work things and we choose poorly, so then we have to rework things. Did these require, yes, these are getting heat sets, so we'll go ahead and do heat sets in here. Now we've got, like I said, I think a couple of these are for the UHP mounts, and then the other two were for what? Cannot remember off the top of my head. But we'll do one set of these because I think I will need them. And we will, of course, have an SSR, so we'll use one of those mounts as well. And yeah, you didn't really miss much, Waters. We routed the motor wires down temporarily so that we can go ahead and mount these pieces after we get our our magnets in them. The you not wanting to go in there nice and flat. Yeah, so there are cutouts on the back side of these parts that will allow wires to come down the rear channel. So we wanted to get the wires down there so when we put these parts on, the wires are already there. We don't have to muck with trying to fish them through or take the panels back off because we'd never be able to fish through the 4-pin connector. So let's take connectors off and then repin it, or whatchamacallit, go ahead and run them down there now. And I put them in there for now with just a few pieces of tape to hold them in place. The plan will be to fish out some of the gray channel cover that I got from Open Builds when they closed. And I just have to figure out which box it's in and go fish it out because I got a bunch of black and a bunch of gray. And of course, I'm sure when I'm fishing it out, I'll be pulling all the black out first. Ugh. So that mount printed readily. Should still be able to make it work. You would think that slicers by now would have, at a certain height where it starts dropping down in the number of parts, that it would know to automatically slow down based on, what material you're using so that you don't get ugly prints like this. Because that's just too much speed and a lack of cooling on ABS ASA. So that is 100% all that is. All right. Should be good to turn that off and get this out of the way so I don't burn myself. We've got our magnets in. They should be set good. I'm going to go ahead and start at the back. And there really is no easy way to show this. But what we're going to have is along the back, we've got M3. And there's going to be one on the side and two right here in the middle that'll be M3. So we're really going to lock this panel down. We're going to need a bunch of our M3 roll-in T-nuts. 1, 2, 3. And we'll try and get our plate, we'll get our T-nuts in here, and then we'll get our plate in here, and we'll get everything lined up, and then we'll secure it down. Wish I knew why those are so hard to get in on the 2040s. Those are 12s. We should be good with 8s on this. I'll do that in firmware for bed slingers. Good to know. And like I said, we'll set this down in here. We'll do our best to pull our peanuts into alignment. And so, yeah, so 6 screws in total, and this covers up this rear spot. Now we're still going to have the umbilical that we'll have to feed down through here. Should be fairly easy because the only thing going up there will be a USB for the beacon, and then the USB cable for the tool head. And what I'll do is I'll do one side and then I'll try and bring you guys closer so I can show you kind of what it looks like with the trim panels and what it looks like without. And yeah, this will be this side. Come on. And sorry, folks, for not cutting it up and having my back to you guys. I'm just trying to get these T-nuts in place so that I can then get all the stuff lined up. And these T-nuts going into the 2040 for whatever reason are so much more of a pain in the butt. Okay. Hey, Jano, how's it going? Welcome on in. We are putting on some accent panels, we'll say. As you can see, they are blowing out the color on my camera, but such is life. These are neon magenta pieces. And all I'm trying to do is get them lined up, and then I'll scoot this one down in place. And my goal was to get one side done, and then I will show you guys what it looks like between the paneled up side and the non-panel, the raw dog side. So y'all can see how nicely this covers everything up. And once again, the theme of this printer was all of the red magenta, and that's going to really make this printer pop because it's a neon red. So when we go to light this thing up, because we will add lights, it's going to be with black light, which will really make this thing pop. Yeah, this is my first cup of coffee right here, so. And this talks about the enclosure talks about panels, but that's the actual like the outer panels, not these like trim pieces. So the other side, so we'll need this side. All right, folks, so 6 more screws and I'll be ready to show you what one side looks like. All right. We'll turn that around and I'll disconnect you guys here and bring you down for a closer look. Possibly. There we go. So as we noted, we've got our wires coming down through the channel. That's what the 3 pieces of tape are doing, is holding it in the channel, because there's a cutout at the bottom that will allow those wires to go through. You've got a rear panel and a side panel in place. There'll be another rear panel and side panels down here. And you'll notice that we've got these 2 spots where we have magnets. That's where other clips are going to sit on top to hold the deck panel in place. So the top deck panel should be a clear piece, and it's going to just sit right down on this ledge, and we'll have clips that come right over the top that hold it in place. And that's the only thing that holds it there. And like I said, that's going to cover everything up nicely like that. Our wires come down the side, and then we'll have our main umbilical that comes right down this center rod down the back and goes directly into a hole in the back of the panel. And that's how everything will get down from the top of the printer down into the electronics panel. So once again, there will be, let's see if I can find one. Where'd you go? Yeah. So there'll be little clips like this. We'll go ahead and put 2 magnets in, and these will line up exactly like that and be able to clip down and hold that top panel in place. So literally you pull off like 6 magnetic clips and you can pull your top panel off and get into your electronics. Okay, so we've got our bottom panel in place. We're printing the drop mounts right now to be able to do our electronic DIN rails that go across. I do have some not in stops, but rail stops at the front of the linear rails here so that our tool head does not come off. And I was able to tension the belts somewhat. We do have some tension on our belts already. I'll have to go through and figure out the full tension. Now, interesting piece here on this. Let me close this. So our pieces here have these flush mount screws. Unless they've changed the design though, this sticks out proud of the door here. And what you would do is you tension these, you secure the M5 down, and then you remove your tensioning brackets and hold on to them for later if you need to retension your belts down the way as it breaks in some. Yeah, so this is the magenta. I did a set of neon green ABS parts for a Automate build because their colors are green and purple. So it's green parts with a purple automated logo on the front arm. And I think that came out really cool. We still need to mount our switch and then do up our connectors. And like I said, with having to move our power supplies to the front, because these rear cables for our motors aren't going to make it all the way to the front. So we'll put our Manta board back here. We'll move our power supplies to the front edge, which means rather than have our switch back here, it may be wise to swap this foot and have the switch at the front edge of the printer. That way, it's just a lot easier. Now, of course, that means we have to take the bottom deck panel off. Of course, that's what that means. Let me put this rear side in, which will also help to keep the these wires in place. So I'll put this one in, and then we'll come back and swap these two legs out now that we're going to have to do that. Yeah. Yes, let me do 6 more rolling T-nuts. Oh, nice. Yeah, I've yet to do any of the Polymaker high temp PLA. Hey, Kenneth, welcome on in. Heck. All right. Let's fish 3 or 6 of these in. And this one goes on the inner side. And like I said, once I get this plate in place, we can come back in, flip this back over onto its top, and we will swap those 2 legs out. We're going to swap this, which is an M5, because we don't need an M5, we need an M3. things in place. I'm being quiet. I'm trying to get these put in as quickly as possible. And if I was standing up where I could see everybody and interact, I would be. But right now, I'm kind of down here trying to focus on getting screws in. All right. Kind of hurts on the old man knees. Okay, so with that, we still have the one side to do, but we can work on that a little bit later. What we're going to do is flip the girl over. Ooh. And we want to swap these two legs here, which we should be able to do without swapping the panel out. You just need to be able to undo this screw and this screw. Now the other screw is under the foot and it's going right into the the upright extrusion. So we've got to take the foot off, which might drop an M5 nut. There we go. And it's not going into upright, it's going into another T-nut there. So we've got one leg off. We're going to take this other leg off and we'll just be able to swap them over and keep right on with the build. All of the legs are symmetrical. It's just the fact of which place do you want to put this one switch if you're not doing a like switched inlet in the back? Oh, come on, darn you, where are you at? Okay, so that one off. We're just going to move it up here to be able to set this right back in place, and things should line back up if I can get the head on the bolt. Seriously? Trying to find the head of the screw itself. There we go, finally. That one's a little bit more difficult because we've got that nut there. We can't go straight down through it or we'll pop the nut out. This would be probably easier to lock in with a ball head cap screw, or I mean a ball head driver. Which is what I may need to do, is go get my ball head driver. Oh, there we go. We got it. One side almost down. We're just going to put the foot back on. Or the pad back on. Now I can come over here and do the other side. Do the rinse and repeat thing. Probably what I'm going to start with is that center one. Like trying to hit screw heads in the dark, Hey, Fallout, how's it going? Welcome in. We're working on getting our feet swapped around a little bit. So when we ran our wires down from our motors, I realized that we're not going to have a, oh gosh darn it, we're not going to have enough room to put the board all the way to the front of this printer. So we're going to put the board in the back and the power supply or power supplies in the front. So what that means is I'm going to move, we just moved the two legs on the front, or I mean on the right side, so that rather than having the switch on the rear right side, the switch is now going to be in the front right of the printer. Our outlet is back here in the right rear, so we'll bring power from our outlet, run it right down the side to the switch, and then into the Wagos. So we'll bring the line in, switch on the line, back to the set of Wagos here that will feed our dual UHP power supplies. We'll have a 48 and a 24 volt power supply. And yeah, so that will bring all of our power down on the right side of the printer. So that's kind of where we're at now. Our Z drives should have enough length to get back there. If not, I might have to redo some of those cables. But yeah, this is kind of where we're at. We've got our tool head partially installed. I'm going to do the actual hot end off stream because I can't show that off. And we'll get a fan on there and a shroud to cover it up. And then it'll be ready to start working on adding the extruder and the tool head wiring. But I can't do all of that just yet, I don't think, because I need to figure out the length for my PTFE tube. So what I'm going to have to do is get my hot end mounted, put my PTFE tube in, make a mark, and then I've got the instructions give me the depth of the PTFE tube that I need for an orbiter. So I'll add that in, or I'll measure it myself. You know, make that measurement, make that cut, and then get that going. So now that we've got that in there, I'll go ahead and add these other two panels. Now when we go to do the wiring, I may take the bottom panel back off when I wire the mains inlet. And the reason being is, remember this, the size of this is 2040 extrusion, right? So this is 2040 extrusion, and there's plenty of gap room there. So I should be able to run the power lines along that inner edge of the 2040 and bring it up to the switch and try and keep the main power lines as far away from everything else as possible. So, and basically we could probably work on that some today as well. It's about 1 o'clock. I was thinking about going down to Ecovate, but Waters isn't going to be there. And the real reason is Mrs. Dragon's going to be down that way and said she would just meet me there when she was done with her meeting. So, yeah, let's go ahead and put on the trim panels on this side. Excuse me. So that part's done. We've got the bottom deck panel on. Yeah, I'm just trying to think where we're at. I know the vertical right here, the vertical riser here, I'm going to have to print. I don't remember seeing that in the files that I've got so far, so I'm going to have to print that. And the Y end stop wire is also going to route down through here. So I'll have to make those wires pretty long and then we'll trim and cut those. I'll be able to fish the individual wire through because I won't put the 2-pin connector on until I properly size it when it's down underneath. So finally got the house to yourself. Well, that's good. That's always nice. Technically, I have the house to myself right now, but like I said, I'm going to be going to meet Mrs. Dragon soon. Maybe have a late lunch. I'm going to mute you guys real fast, and I'm going to sneeze and blow my nose, so bear with me. Okay, that's better. So once again, folks, sorry that I keep sitting down here and I have my back to chat as I'm doing this, but this printer is just way too big to sit up on the table, and I don't have another bench made yet that I can do this on. So come on, you little. And all I'm going to do is try and get these in there, then I'll get them lined up. And then we'll come back in and do the little install. But yeah, there's pretty much, I'm trying to stay with the magenta and black. There's a few obvious silver things in here, you know, magnets and stuff like that. But for the most part, we've been staying with the overall theme. I'm really liking the way that the colors are coming together. And yes, I do know that I can add more and more colors. I'm trying to branch out, trying to get a little more colorful, but for an individual that's red green colorblind, trying to throw a bunch of colors at a printer sometimes backfires. So The other thing that I kind of like about this is these panels not only provide an aesthetic look and they support the, I don't want to say support, but you know, they, well, I guess they, in a way they do support um, the actual top panel, the deck panel. Um, the they also cover up the actual channels here, which can, you know, if they're not covered, it can really be a pain in the butt because you wind up getting stuff down in there all the time, and it's just a real pain in the butt. Most of my printers, especially if you're going to do something like a box turtle on a printer, you're going to have waste, you're going to have poop that gets down in the way, and being able to get these things covered up so you don't have a bunch of little crud print stuff, strands getting down in these channels is a godsend. So I kind of like that they've got these in here. They do prove to be functional. A few more and we're done. Right. Hey, Heathen! How's it going, friendo? Been sitting down on the floor again, putting on some panels, and we're making some progress here. So, as you can see, we've got our deck panel in, or our bottom panel in. We've got our trim panels in, which are creating the riser for our upper deck panel to drop down into. And then where these magnets are will be clips that just press it down in there and hold it in place. We've got our gantry built, the belts run, the tool head fairly well done. I still need to mount the hot end, which I can't show on stream, before mounting the orbiter that we're going to use. Now it does have the filament sensor. We are using the purpose-built orbital tool board, but I don't have the right size spacers. It calls for 14 millimeter spacers. They provide 18 millimeter spacers in the kit. They do that because the if you don't use a words on stream are hard sometimes. If you don't use the board kind of protective mount here, then 18 millimeters works just fine. So it's because we're using that little board mount that will also, I don't know, support the umbilical and help align the umbilical. Yeah. So the next thing I'm going to do, and I probably shouldn't be doing this way, but I'm going to go ahead and put the board mounts on. And the reason I say I shouldn't be doing it this way is because, well, I still have power to this board. Do not be like me. Do not start putting screws and parts with metal bits up against your motherboards or MCUs while they're turned on. It's really not recommended. You have no sound. Why do you have no sound, Free Heathen? I have sound. Does everybody else have sound? Or is it just Free Heathen? All right, so one side clip is on. We're going to do the other side clip. Make sure that they're lined up in the right way, or the same way. You have sound, Eagle? Okay. Should have sound, Free Heathen. Tell Free Heathen to turn up the hearing aid. Yeah. All right. So this board right here, this is a Manta M8P. This is, we're using this for specific reasons. At first I was like, hey, let's use a Kraken because we've got the Kraken motors and we can push a lot of power through the Kraken board, but we really don't need a lot of power on the Z-axis. I mean, Kraken makes sense if you're doing like an all-wheel drive setup and just running everything, no offense, balls to the wall. That's not what we're doing per se. So this is a Manta M8P with a CB2 module on it. CB2 module being the newer version of the Raspberry Pi alternative from Big Tree Tech. I need to see if there's a heat spreader for this. If not, I'll go in and screw this down and we'll put dedicated heat sinks on the eMMC and the actual rock chip. Right now it's being run through 5-volt power off the table as we were configuring it. We've got two 5160T Pros here, the red heat sinks. These are going to be pulling 48-volt power. The three blue ones here are standard TMC 2209s for the Z drives. And then there's nothing else in here because the tool head's going to be run off the tool head board. The nice thing about this is this first row down here, you've got your bed thermistor and then 4 hot end thermistors. These thermistors with just a jumper can support PT1000. So I've got TH2 and TH3 set to PT1000 because we're going to plug in the thermistors that are in the Kraken motors to these 2 ports, so we'll be able to monitor the heat on those, or the temps on those. Okay, sounds great. So there's a thought heading through my mind. I have no idea what it was though, because it came and went just as fast. Yeah, so this also reduces the need for a standalone 5-volt power supply, and the space for a separate board. So this is going to be our clean electronics. We'll have the adapter board here because we're running a Orbital 2 board. So this is a specific board made for the Orbiter 2 series. There is also a version of this board for the Orbiter 3 series that will support the smart sensor functions of that particular tool head. What else? What else? Yeah, in this case, the Orbiter 2 is the extruder that you can put with whatever hot end you want. The Orbiter 3 is an all-in-one unit with an orbiter and an actual hot end. And that hot end is either, can be a Revo or a standard style hot end. So, yeah, there we go. Boom, boom, boom. This is going to be the mount for our Wagos. It's not as snug as I would prefer it to be, but your Wago connectors slide down just like this. They're actually easy enough to take out, so if you're working on your Wagos, you can do that, but they should sit in there just fine since it's going to be sitting like this. We're not going to be flipping this printer on its side or upside down once it's built because 1, it's heavy, and then 2, you have access to all the electronics by just pulling up the deck panel. So yeah, I'm just thinking if there's anything else we can work on at the moment, because we're doing 2 50-15 part cooling fans, we are going to have to join them together because the Orbital only provides for 1 part cooling and 1 hot end fan, so we will have to join those 2 together. Yeah. And then it's just a matter of how tightly do we want to make our wiring going into our tool head. We are going to run a beacon, and the beacon's a USB, this is USB, so we have 2 cables coming in through our umbilical all the way up to the tool head board. Everything, I know that there is an EBB 36 new version coming out. That's a USB version that will have a pass-through USB for the beacon. I know people, I believe the Nighthawk Stealth Burner board, or not Stealth Burner, the Nighthawk 36 board has a pass-through as well, but there's intermittent issues with trying to run beacon through it. So, but I think we're kind of at a holding point. We've got the new drop rail brackets printing. Let me run downstairs real fast and grab the prints that should be done on the printer downstairs, which is one of the Centauri carbons. So I'll be right back. And I hope that these might work, but I'm not going to hold my breath just because I don't know what the height of these are. So I'm going to put one of these on. I'm going to take one of the drop brackets and put it on. Okay, so there's a little bit of space there. And I'm looking at that because remember, this dropped down just a little bit too much. So this might put these right at the top deck panel. It's going to be tight. We'll see. Hopefully this works. If not, then I'll mount them side by side. Hey, Chewy, how's it going? Shenanigans, what's up, my friend? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. We are all over the place today because we use the drop brackets here that we got for a boron, and they wound up being like 3 millimeters too long, and they were pushing on the bottom deck panel. So we had to adjust, and I'm printing out the ZeroG drop brackets and hoping that these will fit on and I'll have enough clearance with my UHPs to stack them vertically like this. If it doesn't work and it's going to basically put the deck panel like right here on top of it, then I will dig out the mount that I made for the black box and basically mount these side by side like that, which probably is honestly where I'm probably going to wind up going. I just am trying not to have to do that. But yeah, welcome on in. We've been working on the Nebula. Well, this is the ZeroG Mercury 1.1 with Hydra and Nebula. So Nebula is the full nice frame and getting rid of the Creality sort of jank frame, right? We all know that Creality rails kind of bow, twist, and everything else. This is a lot more sturdy of a frame. I am telling you, if you ever saw the smaller one that I took to Murph for a couple of years, that was this frame in beta that I did. Okay, so we got beefy frame. We've got all metal CNC parts on the gantry, which is Mercury's. This is the Mercury 1.1, right? Nebula is the frame. Mercury 1.1 is the gantry system, the CoreXY Gantry system. Okay, so this is all CNC with just some aluminum spacers and a couple of places you got printed parts just because it makes sense, right? The X-axis mounts to the XY blocks through some printed parts, and that allows some expansion within the chamber, right? Because this is going to be a fully enclosed printer. Okay, we're also running 9mm belts. We're doing the EVA 3 tool head for ZeroG Mercury 1, so it's set to work with the belting system that we use here. We will have a physical X end stop. We will have a physical Y end stop. Z is going to be done with a beacon probe that mounts underneath here. I just haven't done it yet. We've got dual 5015 blowers for our part cooling. We'll have a 4010 on the front of the hot end, which I can't show, so that's why we haven't installed that yet. And then the Hydra mod is the triple lead screw mod on here. And thanks to TurtleCrawler, who designed the gantry mod, I now have CNC motor mounts for the bottom. as well as 3D printed metal arm yokes for the bed mount. And that's what these look like. These are 3D printed in an aluminum powder. I did not have them tap the holes because I was told if you ask them to tap the holes that they will try and model in the threads. So I do have to tap these myself. But yeah, choir time, lurking and listening. All righty. All righty. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So yeah, so far this was supposed to just be a lift and shift. Take this. Oh, sure. Okay, there we go. I was like, I have to see you. I have to hear you singing if that's the case. It was supposed to just be build the Nebula frame and then lift and shift everything from the old chassis over. Then we got the 9mm belt upgrade and the CNC gantry. So the only thing I was going to need off of the old gantry was the linear rails and the tool head. And then I was like, but the linear rails are black and they don't go with the gray frame, right? And I didn't want the black rails sticking out. So I bought all new linear rails from KB3D. So now we have a brand new frame, CNC gantry parts, all new linear rails, CNC motor mounts for the Z, SLM printed yokes and trucks, which are these little guys right here, the little tanks. We're redoing all the electronics. So pretty much I took the Z motors, the lead screws, and the bed out of the old chassis. Everything else is brand new. So yeah, and we're putting Kraken motors in it. So these are the Devil Design Kraken motors that can take up to 3 amps of current. And we're going to run them at 48 volts. Hence why we've got the dual UHP power supplies that we're trying to get mounted. So yeah, this is pretty interesting. And probably what I want to do is let me take that and that, because these din rail drop mounts should be pretty close to the bed. That's going to be right there. Like right there. Good possibility we will be able to get away with that. We'll have our Wago mounts. We've got the rest of our tool head stuff still sitting up here. X end stop. 2 of these. So yeah, and I'm going to have to call the stream here shortly, folks. My sinuses are really getting upset with me. And then 2, we're going to have to go and check on Mrs. Dragon. Something tells me this would have been easier to do before putting the belts in, but we'll make it work. There we go. I believe these are M3x8s for these. All right, so front side in, we'll do the back side, get that lined up. And once again, there's this style, which kind of goes over the linear rail. And then there's another style that you can do that mounts via the M5 bolt here for the XY joiner. And all this is a little step up that will catch that end stop right there as we come over. And then there's nothing on the other side that'll prevent it from going off the rail if you go way too far to the left. But you're homing to max right, so it's more of setting your soft end stop for the left side. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I mean, we're going to need to wire up a Y end stop, but I'm going to have to kind of figure out a good length of wire, cut the wire, and solder it, and then we'll set up the Y end stop there. Yeah, I think we're at a stopping point right now. I believe that's all I'm going to be able to do today without, waiting on prints to finish. So, yeah, I mean, I can start working on panels, but I don't want to do panels until we get wiring all done. Get wiring done, get it moving. Once we've got it moving, then we can work on other stuff. But for now, folks, I want to thank you guys for being here. Let's find a raid target that we can jump into or jump over to. Let's see who's up and running. Was Free Heathen gonna stream today? Why, yes, he is. He's been up for about 4 seconds. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get Star Raid over to Free Heathen. Thank you all for being here. It's been great doing this build with you and watching it, how we go down the rabbit hole of going from a straight lift and shift to a complete printer build out of nowhere. So you can see how these projects just kind of take a life on their own and scroll out, or maybe it's just me. But thank you all for being here. Let's go over and check out Maker Millwright. He is a maker, a creator. He makes all the things. He does a bunch of minis that are fully FDM printable so that you can print and paint and do your own tabletop gaming system. So really great individual, another Canadian creator. So thank you all for being here. I will see you guys next time, which should be on Tuesday. And have a great day. Bye now. And for those of you that are watching this later on YouTube, thank you for sticking around as well. If you want to see more of the builds that I do here on stream, please be sure to like and subscribe down below. Check that bell to make sure you're notified when future video comes out. And talking about future videos, YouTube's going to be suggesting a new one right over here. Thank you.